Stephen from New York. Thank you for waiting, Stephen. And you want to talk about crop circles?
Yeah.
Okay, what specifically is it that you want to talk about, Stephen?
I was watching a previous episode with a caller called Katie. She was talking about how crop circles are not proven to be man-made. I thought her approach was a little harsh, but I do essentially agree with what she said in a way.
Okay, for those who didn't hear that call, remind us what Katie said, and particularly the part you agreed with.
She was saying that there's no scientific evidence to show that crop circles are man-made, or how they're, or yeah, basically that, and also how you can't always trust something just because it's considered a credible source.
Okay, there's two different claims in there. Shall we discuss the first one first? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you constitute? Here's the challenge, right? The claim is there's no evidence that crop circles are man-made. My own personal experience is I've watched documentaries where people have gone out and made crop circles. So that's confusing to me. Maybe you could dive into that a little bit, because I've been presented with information where people have used a variety of methods, ropes and planks of wood and all sorts of things to create the crop circles that I am familiar with. Is that not evidence that at least one possible explanation is people went out into a cornfield or crops and made them using the methods I saw on these documentaries?
They can be man-made, but these basically all the articles I read, even if they're considered credible, that's basically all they said. They said that some people admitted to making certain crop circles, but there isn't like an absolute methodology that you could apply to any random crop circle and definitively prove that it's man-made.
As opposed to what?
Well, when I was reading about it, I did hear that it could be maybe due to tornadoes, weather, animals, something with the landscape itself.
Okay. All right, so there's a bunch of possible explanations for crop circles out there. Your argument is we can't be certain for any given crop circle what made it. You agree that we can go out and make crop circles, that we've seen men make crop circles, but for any given crop circle that we didn't witness being made, we can't definitively say how it was made. And your possible explanations are man-made, which we've seen, tornadoes, other natural phenomenon, maybe animals, which I don't think I've ever seen. Maybe you have. Any other possible explanations?
Some people say aliens or paranormal, but that's a whole other can of worms. I mean,
okay. Are you saying that's possible?
It's unlikely, but I don't see anything in DNA that says an organism can have green or gray skin or like large black eyes. Like, for example, Alex.
Okay. Stephen, we've made a bit of a leap there.
Well, I'll accept that you think that that's a possible explanation. And we're back to what we talked about with the last caller, which is Occam's razor, right? Which is, okay, we've seen crop circles being made by humans. We haven't witnessed everything else. So what should we accept at this point? At a minimum, we should be where I think you are, which is, I don't know. I pointed a crop circle. Somebody says, what made this? At a minimum, we're at, I don't know. And at a maximum, we're saying, well, it's most likely humans, because we've seen that and we've never seen anything else do it. And do you?
Hello?
Stephen? Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a second. Well, the thing is, basically, even though there are humans that have admitted to making certain crop circles, the great majority of crop circles can't be studied because there's nothing to go off of. So the only way, as far as I know, from what I gathered.
What do you mean by the great majority of crop circles cannot be studied? Just kind of go over that a little bit for me, please.
there isn't like, I guess, a machine, I guess, that could like determine that it's man. As far as I know, that could determine that it's man-made. There's no way of observing it, and just finding out that it's made by a human. Yeah.
Okay, so with this, how do you think we might differentiate between, let's say, human-made crop circle and one made by a tornado? Do you think there is any methodology which would allow us to do that?
Well, the one made by a human might be more intricate, more neat, I guess.
Do you not think there might be a simpler way of doing that? By, we could check the weather reports and see if there were any tornadoes present in the area at the time that crop circle was created.
Yeah, or maybe strong wind. But...
Yeah, so there is a way we can differentiate between a man-made crop circle and one created, for example, by weather. So we have got a way of differentiating. But I think the interesting thing is here, the interesting thing for me, and I think the interesting thing for the cross-examiner as well, was this kind of idea that they might be made by something supernatural. And that's far more interesting, especially for the remit of this show. We're not an agriculture show. We're not a show about the weather. We are, in fact, a show about talking to people about what they believe and why, especially in regards to supernatural claims. So let's go down that route. You made a big leap when we talked about, aliens, for example, possibly making the crop circles, to kind of instead of just saying, well, I think it is possible that an extraterrestrial source has made these because of X, you kind of jumped to this common idea, this idea of these aliens having grey or green skin, which is more of a cultural idea than, there's been no definitive scientific evidence that says these creatures have grey or green skin, or in fact that these creatures exist. So rather than kind of going to somewhere which is kind of a cultural phenomenon, let's talk about why you think that they might be creating even a possibility for creating these crop circles to begin with.
I guess there's eyewitnesses of it, but obviously that's not credible. But also, like I said before, well, I don't know if other planets could sustain life, but I don't see why a creature that looks similar to that, that maybe is highly intelligent, can't use some kind of spacecraft or UFO to, I don't know, land on a field and create one.
Okay, so why do you think that's a possibility? Why? Let's go into the possibility aspect of it, because there's so many assumptions. We've been talking about Occam's razor and multiplying kind of entities. Why do you think that aliens even visiting this planet is a possibility to begin with?
Well, it is technically a natural claim. I mean, it's not even a paranormal claim.
No, but it's certainly an extraordinary claim.
Right.
Okay, so why do you think that that's a possibility to begin with?
Well, I've heard many eyewitness accounts of it, but that can't be completely trusted. But yeah.
So eyewitness testimony is your main kind of focus on why that's a possibility.
And just the fact that it seems logically possible.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that. We'll come to. I'll deal with the logical possibility part. I'll let the cross-examiner jump in with the eyewitness part first of all.
Sure, yeah. So Sorry, I dropped there for a second. We had an internet issue here, but I'm back. I did hear the last part. So, eyewitness testimony. I'm trying to form the question here. Eyewitness testimony is often given a lot of credence in court. Scientific studies have shown it's possibly the least reliable evidence we have at trial. So I guess my question is, what level of confidence do you ascribe to stories you've heard from people who have reported alien sightings, alien abductions, things like that? Like, does that convince you that yes, 100% there are alien beings that are visiting this planet with hyper technology, or are you not so sure? You're just saying it's a possibility.
I'm not so sure, of course, but I do look into it when I hear a claim. I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. If you combine that with physics that talks about what the limitation appears to be of interstellar travel, the speed of light being unattainable by a physical being, does that assuage you of those possibilities at all? Does that make the claim even more extraordinary to you?
Wait, can you repeat it quickly?
So physics is basically telling us if we're assuming that these beings are coming from outside of our solar system, it would take them an astronomically long period of time to even get here physically, right? Unless you want to further hypothesize science fiction tropes that let you travel faster than the speed of light, which seems to be, based on all of our knowledge, impossible. So it seems, even if, and I'm not saying there aren't aliens, I'm actually fairly confident that there's probably life teeming throughout the universe, given just the vast numbers that are out there. But the odds of any one of those civilizations reaching the point where they can achieve interstellar travel and make it to Earth are so small, because it would take them millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, maybe even tens of thousands of years to physically get here. To what end, and why would they be making crop circles? Like, doesn't that totality of that reality sort of say, in an Occam's razor standpoint, doesn't that sort of mean it's more likely that those eyewitnesses are either mistaken or lying or crazy, rather than aliens with superior technology came here and chose to just make crop circles?
I never thought about how long it could take or anything. I didn't think about that part of it.
Okay, well, that's something to think about then.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the previous caller, Stephen, I think it's really important when you come across something like that you've not encountered before, that you kind of say, as you have done, hang on a minute, well, no, I never considered that before. That shows great thinking. It really, really does, to be able to stop, especially during a conversation like this, when you're kind of on air and there are nerves involved, to have the kind of ability to stop and say, I've not actually thought about that before. That's a great point. I will think that over. It's a really, really good position to be in. So we've got this. Let's kind of broaden the subject back to the kind of general question you came with. We've got this idea now that maybe extraterrestrials aren't a good explanation for crop circles. We know that both weather phenomena and human beings are the cause of crop circles. And we've talked a little bit about distinguishing between, how we'd tell between those two things making them. Is it safe to assume, is it a good assumption that we can make that, although we don't have 100% knowledge, and I don't think we can have 100% knowledge. We're not the Buddha who claims to know everything in the universe through enlightenment. I don't think we can know everything. Is it safe to assume that, given that there is only so much we can know, compounded by the way that we are part of a species that only has a tunnel vision aspect into the whole of reality, the sum of reality, so we can know even less. But isn't it a good assumption to make that, given what we do know, we don't have to jump to supernatural or extraordinary explanations for the creation of crop circle? It is reasonable in the formation of crop circles to assume, even just on the basis of hearing on the news overnight a new crop circle's been made, isn't it reasonable for our first assumption to be that has possibly been made by a human being or possibly been made by some weather phenomena before we start jumping to these extraordinary claims as to their creation?
Yeah, I kind of agree. But another thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that you can't always trust a peer-reviewed article, because it can be mistaken too. Just because it's credible or peer-reviewed, they can make a mistake.
Stephen, I agree with you.
Or even
Stephen, let me just stop you there, please, because we do have another call and we are getting close to time, so I do want to get to this other call. I agree with you. And you know what? If you could call back, I'm hosting again next week as well. If you could call back next week and let's talk about that kind of peer review process and what's good about it, what's bad about it, what's trustworthy, and where it can lead us, because these are important conversations that need to be had. So if you can call back next week, let's talk about peer review. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your call. It's great that, for me, cross-examiner, that both callers we've had today at points during the call have stopped and said, yes, actually, that's given me something to chew over. That's given me something to think about. That, to me, shows an intelligence in the caller.
Yeah, absolutely. Their critical thinking skills are being exercised. It's a muscle you have to exercise every day. I learned something. I didn't realize that crop circles can be made out of weather conditions, at least ones approximating the crop circles we see today. So it's great when you can have these experiences where everybody learns something new, and I encourage it. I think people should be proud that they're willing to come and have these dialogues, because we can learn things and they can learn things. And in the end, if there's some sort of truth out there to some claim, we all would be better off if we knew what that truth is. And you do that by exploring different possibilities and maybe taking the homework assignment of going and researching stuff and things like that. I'm eager to hear the conversation about peer review articles. I agree. You don't point to one, but what about 10,000? What about 20,000?
Yeah.
What about 30,000? But
that will be a great conversation to have.